Hello everyone, my name is DAGG, and today I want to talk about two classic Nintendo franchises that fans have been waiting for ages to see a comeback, especially now with the Nintendo Switch 2, this being Punch-Out and Kid Icarus. These series might not be as active as Mario or Zelda, but they left a huge mark on gaming history and also on me personally. So let's dive into their origins, their most recent entries, and why they've been on hiatus for so long. And most importantly, are these series going to come back on the Nintendo Switch 2? Let's start with Punch-Out. This franchise quickly became a fan favorite on the NES in 1987. Players took control of Little Mac, an underdog boxer trying to climb the ranks and take on a colorful cast of opponents. What made Punch-Out unique wasn't just the boxing action, but the puzzle-like approach to fights. Every opponent had their own patterns, tails, and weaknesses, and you had to exploit those to win. Punch-Out on the NES was the first game on the series, and Punch-Out on the Wii was the last game on the series. The Wii game was released in 2009, while before that we only had the NES and SNES game, which are both incredible. I also love the Super Punch-Out game. Anyways, going back to Punch-Out Wii. It was developed by Next Level Games. It brought the series into modern times with gorgeous cartoon visuals, motion controls, even though you could also play with traditional buttons too, and a return of many fan favorite fighters like Glass Joe, King Hippo, and Bolt Bull. It was faithful to the original formula while adding new challenge modes. And at the end you can even fight Donkey Kong as a secret boss. So why has Punch-Out been on hiatus for so long? Well, besides the Super Smash Bros. Appearance, a big reason is that a lot of the characters are based on exaggerated cultural stereotypes. While they were often played for laughs back in the day, those kinds of mocks don't really fly anymore. And Nintendo, understandably, hasn't wanted to risk putting out something that could come off as offensive. But let's say Nintendo brings back Punch-Out. How could they design a roster that's funny, quirky, and unique without relying on cultural stereotypes? They were on the right track with Punch-Out Wii, with characters like the Disco Kid. You can create characters that are not a stereotype of other cultures. For example, have one that believes he is a knight, have another one that is a ghost, have one that is a magician. What I'm trying to say is, maybe go a little more to the fantasy side, and that way you're not relying on cultural stereotypes, but more on the fantasy side of things. Bring back the Disco Fighter, maybe add an Emo Fighter. Hey, even bring back Donkey Kong and add King K. Rool as a guest character, or maybe even Bowser, that could be pretty fun. Maybe Incineroar from Pokemon can be in the game. What I'm trying to say is that the possibilities are endless and Nintendo doesn't need cultural stereotypes. And besides, it would also be very fun to play with motion controls, like ARMS for the Nintendo Switch, but better and more precise, and imagine multiplayer, fighting your friends like in Wii Sports. I don't know, I think that would be a pretty cool idea. And imagine a game stylized in the Super Smash Bros. For Wii U Little Mac trailer. That would be sick! Anyways, now let's switch back to Kid Icarus. This series started on the NES back in 1986. The original was thought as an action platformer mixing elements of Metroid with Greek mythology. It introduced us to Pit, an angel who serves the goddess Palutena in her battle against Medusa. The franchise disappeared for decades after a Game Boy sequel, until it made a massive comeback on the Nintendo 3DS. That comeback was Kid Icarus Uprising in 2012, directed by Masahiro Sakurai, the same mind behind Super Smash Bros. And Kirby Air Riders. The game completely reimagined the series. It combined on-rails aerial shooting with third-person ground combat. It featured hundreds of weapons and told a surprisingly funny and self-aware story with tons of voice acting. Kid Icarus Uprising was praised for its creativity, humor, and sheer personality. Although its control scheme was a little divisive, still it was an ambitious revival that showed that Kid Icarus could be in the modern age. And it quickly became one of my all-time favorite games. But why hasn't there been a sequel? Well, Sakurai has been extremely busy. Between working on Super Smash Bros. Ultimate and Kirby Air Riders right after, there just hasn't been room for him to return to Pit and Palutena's world. And since Sakurai himself was such a driving force behind Uprising, it feels like Nintendo hasn't wanted to continue without him. But thankfully, Kirby Air Riders is about to release, and Sakurai is technically free? So here's what I want. Sakurai, can you please bring Kid Icarus Uprising to the Nintendo Switch 2 in HD? An HD port of Kid Icarus Uprising will be amazing. Why? Because let's be real, the only flaw this game has is the control scheme where you had to play like this. You know, holding it with one hand and moving and shooting with this and pulling the trigger like this. So this was the control scheme. How can that be fixed? With a regular Nintendo Switch 2 controller. You move, you aim, you shoot. Simple as that. The Nintendo 3DS actually had an add-on for that control scheme. But it doesn't feel natural and it's not the same. We also have mouse controls now with the Nintendo Switch 2. So we can use one hand to move and shoot and the other one to aim in mouse controls. So we can play like this, kinda. Or you know what? You can also create a brand new game. I've been dying for a sequel. Even though this game is fantastic, I would also love to have a sequel. But those are my ideas on how these franchises could come to the Nintendo Switch 2. It really all depends on Nintendo letting Sakurai have fun and Nintendo realizing that they do not need cultural stereotypes to make Punch-Out great. These two Nintendo franchises with incredible potential are just waiting for the right moment to shine again. Whether it's sports, remakes, or entirely new games, I think a lot of fans are ready to welcome Little Mac and Pit back into the spotlight. But what do you guys think? Which would you rather have a return first? What type of crazy new characters would you love to see in the new Punch-Out? Be sure to drop your ideas in the comments. But anyways, that's going to be all for today. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, do not forget to leave a like and subscribe, and I'll catch you next time. See ya! Bye!